Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. We're starting on a new Christmas design, and normally I paint this off camera because it takes a little bit of time, but I wanted to show you the technique and how I go about getting a very antique looking, very rustic, very primitive feel on this. If you happen to watch me yesterday, I did a farm fresh eggs and farm fresh milk. And my sister said, you know, that's very antique looking. And that's exactly what I'm going for. So I thought I'd come on here, show you how to do this, and then also continue painting. So what I like to do is I sand my surface down really, really good. Okay. And try and get it smooth. And then I like to use a color called light buttermilk. And I use a sponge. I don't roll it on. And here's the reason being. Normally I'm really, really fussy about how my coverage goes on. But I'm not all that fussy when I'm doing this. I don't want, you know, see how I'm getting little marks there, you know, from my brush. My sponge. I don't want that. So I don't want you to see where those sponge marks start and stop. But I just put on very sparse coverage because I want my wood to show through in spots. Some I'll go, you know, I'll put more coverage on than others, and then I just, you know, I play around till I get what I'm after. But I definitely try to get rid of these little sponge marks. So I kind of just like focus on one area and get that to exactly what I want. And then I will go back and put a little bit more paint to try and cover up those little spots. I kind of don't worry really about these little score lines that make it look like shiplap, because I do have a little tool that I'll use to dig that out. And then once this paint dries, I'll be seeing it anyways. So, but I really don't want those little marks in there, because even though I'll be sanding it and I'm going to put a sealing wax on here, you can still kind of see them. So it kind of just has to be a personal preference. I mean, you could use a roller. But I feel that you might get too much paint, and then that'll take away from the look that you're trying to achieve. Now, if you are an MDF user, I don't know how this will work out, because there is no grain in MDF. I'm not an MDF user, so you might not get the same result as me. And I'm starting kind of where these Christmas trees are going to be. Because the majority of the paint is going in that area. And I think maybe when you apply this, you know, trying to keep even pressure is key as well. And once I put this finishing wax on here, it's just going to give it a totally different look. It's going to really, really age it. Now I'm using a bigger sponge right now, but I'm going to switch to a smaller sponge to get around that engraving area. With hopes that I don't get paint in those areas, because they are hard. Once you get paint there, it's hard to fix that. It's kind of almost impossible. Yeah, that rain's coming down pretty good. Not that we need it. And then also too, what I'm doing is when I load up my sponge and my paint, I'm tapping the paint back off also onto my plate so I don't have an abundance of paint on my sponge. And that kind of helps not get it in that engraving area. So it takes a little bit more time, but it's a good result in the end. And then I'm just lightly tapping over that area. And once I get a coat of paint on there, I try and go back and then even up how much paint is in that area, because you can definitely always see a difference. It seems like I have less paint in those areas. So I kind of try and even it up. It's kind of hard to explain. But you can clearly see how the paint is sparser. You just don't want, for me, I don't want a really thick coats of paint above and below the letters and then have it be real sparse between the letters. So I'm trying to even it out the best I can without going in those areas. But I mean, it does happen. As long as you don't get a whole lot of paint in there, I think it'll be okay. And this is where it's most time consuming as far as I'm concerned, is in the engraved areas. So you just need to apply the paint till you get a look that you're okay with. Because like I said, we will be sanding this. I'm just trying to even out the paint. And then if there's any sponge marks, you know, I'm trying to eliminate those as well. But you kind of want to like keep even pressure on your sponge when you're applying, because that'll help not have those marks. And it's easy to pounce a little bit harder than necessary. Like I said, I know I want the grain of the wood to show through, but I don't want an abundance of that. And here's the reason why. Because once I put that sealing wax on there, it's going to pick up that grain, and it'll make it real dark in there. And if I want some areas a little bit darker than others, what I'll do is I actually sand a little bit harder in certain areas to get it down to the bare wood. So it can be a little time consuming. That's why I normally do this portion prior to me coming live. Okay, we'll let that dry really good. I do see a couple sponge marks. Okay, good enough. So I'll let that dry really good, and we'll work on these pine trees. Now there's no stems, trunks, whatever you want to call it, on these trees. There's two ways you can actually do this, and I kind of think I'm going to go the certain way. You definitely want to, when it comes time, we're going to glue this one on in the middle and have it all lined up. And these are cut to go on the ends, okay? But something you can do, and this is up to you, if you have them lined up on the ends like this, okay, you still got the three protruding. But if you wanted to make it look like you had actually more trees involved in this picture, just slide them over and put them in between that full piece. So now you go from, instead of having 5 trees, to actually having 7, and it looks like a forest. So I think that's exactly how I'm going to do that. I am going to do some shading and highlighting, and I haven't decided if I want to do that wax on it or not. So I'm not quite sure yet. We'll have to see how everything's going. But I want this to look very rustic, very vintage, very antique. So I'm going to use a color called Avocado. And just cover these really well. It's probably going to take a couple coats. Green is not a color that covers great. And if you decide to do like I said I was going to do and turn this from 5 Christmas trees into 7, of course the bottom and the sides are not going to line up to anything. But that's okay. And if you wanted to, push them down a little bit and, give the illusion of even another layer, or like it'll look like there's another row of trees, that's something you can do. There's no right or wrong. So I did that intentionally so you could either do what I'm going to do, or you can glue them to the ends and just strictly have 5 trees and just match everything up. So I wanted to give that option. And I've never really shaded and highlighted and then turned around and sanded it off. So I don't know how that's going to work. I'm going to try it just to see, just to bring in, you know, another color. Maybe I'll just sand and put that wax on just the lettering. And then also, too, depending on how dark the background gets, I might spatter this with white paint to kind of simulate snow. So I will not be gluing this all together. I'll set it, you know, out there so you can see what it's going to look like. Because if I spatter, I might just spatter the trees and not the lettering, or I might just spatter the background, leave the lettering alone. I don't think I want any spatter on the lettering. And then I don't like to do that live because I don't want paint all over my phone and my iPad, so I have a certain area that I do that. I don't see myself putting that sealing wax on these trees because I kind of want to try and create depth by highlighting and shading it. And I think by adding that wax, because my shading and highlighting is going to be pretty minimal, I don't think you'll be able to see it. Something you could do too is if you have that text snow, you could add that to the top of the trees to make it look like there's snow on top of the trees. I won't be doing any of that. That's another option you have. Okay. So I'm not going to sand over my surface, but what I like to use, and this has 600 grit, is I like to use this little sander and go with the grain and knock off the high spots. And then I'll use about 180 grit with the sanding stick and go around the edges to rough them up, and then in the corners, and then even use it in certain areas just to take it down further. So I'm going to do this off camera, off so you can't see it. I don't want to get this dust in my surface, in my paint. But see what this does? It just smooths this out. It smooths the surface out. And then also too, you know, if I still have some sponge marks, I kind of sand a little bit harder in that. Now there is dust in this lettering, and I'm okay with that because I'll clean it out in a bit. But I'm going to go back now and use this sanding stick and go around the edges. Okay, I pretty well got it where I think I'll like it. And then I actually switched to a, it's 80 grit, and went around the edges even more and made this a little bit more distinct. However, you have to be careful using that kind of grit because it will scratch your surface. And that's okay because, you know, I do want it to look really roughed up, but I don't go across the whole thing. And if I feel that I got a little bit too rough in one area, then I'll take the smoother and kind of try and smooth it out. But you definitely want to watch because you will get scratch marks. And they will just stick out once you put this stuff on. So, now I'm going to dig out my score lines because, of course, there's paint dust in there. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. So I don't know if you can really see that all that well on the screen. But you can definitely see the wood behind it. You can see where I've gotten a little bit more aggressive on the corners and on the ends. And I'm pretty happy with this, so. So what we'll do, so it stains really well and it dries. I actually cut an old t-shirt just because it's just a bigger area. And I think it's just easier to use that instead of the sponge. So you're just going to use this Kills Sealing Dark Wax. That's what I like to use. And I just kind of wrap this around my fingers. And I just tap in there. And then I kind of tap a little bit off. And I just kind of start in the corners. And I kind of go across. Now this is really, really dark right now. Probably a lot darker than really what I wanted, but that's okay. But I'm trying to move fast. And I go with the grain of the wood and I try and just do 1 to 2 slats at a time. And I'm going to go and take a lot of this off because it's definitely dark. Now I'm going to take my wet wipe and go over this to calm it down a little bit. But I'm still, I'm kind of focusing on the center and leaving the edges darker. And you got to determine how hard you want to rub. And then if you want to go back and darken up those sides some more, you can do that. I think I want mine a little bit lighter. But this kind of just pushes that wax into these areas. Especially with me using wood, you know, I have a grain. And then it's staining the bare wood as well. And I think, and I'm going to use a sponge this time, I just think I want some of these corners a little bit more distinct. I want the wood to look really weathered. So I'm just going around these corners again. And then I'm just going to take this wet wipe and kind of smooth it out a little bit. I'm trying to avoid that edge that I just put that on. I'm just kind of lightly going over that. And that's funny, my paint kind of come off right where that S is. And that's just going to make it look a little bit more rustic. And weathered. So you want to be careful how hard you're pressing with this wet wipe, because you will remove the paint. But there it is. It's darker, but it's, you know, when it's all said and done, it's going to look very antique, very primitive, very rustic. And that's what I'm after. I mean, this board looks like it has seen better days. That it's been on the old tree farm for quite some time. So we'll let that dry really, really good. So it just has to be a personal preference, how much you put on, how much you take off, you know, how much sanding you do. It just has to be a personal preference. And I really think if I spatter this, I think that will really look nice on the background. But we will see. All right. Let's see about doing a little highlighting. And I'm going to dry brush because I kind of want this to be very minimal. So I'm going to use celery green. And I'm just going to go down the sides. And the top. And you can barely see that, but I'll go back and put more on. Even though I have layers, I want it to stand out even more. So I'm going to go around all these edges. And I'm not going to do that middle tree because I am going to glue that one on. So I'll just dry brush that tree. And also too, you know, by using this lighter color, it kind of looks like possibly snow on the branches. You don't want to press too hard because these little branches are a little fragile. Now that one I got a little bit too much on. I'm just going to go ahead and leave this in there. Now I want to do a little bit of shading. So I kind of need to figure out. So I'm just going to take and draw a line. And I'm going to use the color Evergreen. I haven't really ever used this a whole lot. So I don't know how dark this is. So I need to be pretty careful, I think. I think I'll take a bigger brush. Wow, that looks like a pretty bright color. I don't know. Let me shake it up. It's pretty bright. So I definitely want to be careful. And I'm just going to kind of go back and forth. See, now if it was me, I would probably, and I might switch. Use black green. I mean, I can see a little bit, but not a whole lot. And then when that happens, it makes you want to press harder, and then you end up with a glob of paint, which is not what you want. Yeah, I think I'm going to switch to the black green. Because Hiles or dark green, I think, has a little bit too much blue in it. So. I don't know. Hiles or dark green, I guess. Still have to be pretty careful. This Hauser Dirt Green, in my opinion, has a lot of blue in it. We all know blue and yellow make green. I mean, this shading is going to be pretty minimal. All right. I don't know if you can see the layers. Part of me kind of feels like I need to darken up that bottom just so it creates a shadow. It's pretty good. I mean, it looks like there's layer upon layer. It's very subtle, but it just gives that illusion. All right. All right, I'm gonna take a break and empty out this water. And I will be back shortly. Hopefully you stick around. this is where we left off. So we'll set that aside and we'll work on these letters. And I know that I'm going to paint these country red. That's my go-to red color. And I will definitely be sanding them. I'm going to have to be real careful here. And adding some of that stain to it. Because that's what it looks like with the wax. And if you put it next to these, it's just a good combination. I still might put some on there. I don't know yet. When you put wax on, that's what it looks like. So I would have, you know, these two going together like this. So we'll have to see. Oh, that's too much paint. Did a durley. I'm doing a lot of durleys lately. And like I said, I do think I'm going to splatter, but I won't be splattering the letters. I'm going to be splattering the background, the board. And I think I'll splatter the trees. So I will do that off camera. And you folks will see what it looks like after the fact. You always want to be careful of these cursive letters, whether it's painting, sanding, gluing. They are very, very delicate. And I'm going to put a better coat on them. So this is kind of where we're at. So that green just really pops off there. So I don't think I want to put any antiquing on them. Make them look rustic. I just don't think I want to do that. I'm just going to glue them together. And like I said, I might do some spattering. So let's see about this red. And then, you know, this red is definitely going to pop off of there. But I do think I want to give it a little bit of a weathered look. Just a little bit, but it's a very simple design. It's a very quick design. How many colors of paint did I use? If you choose to go the route that I did with the shading and the highlighting. So the background was light buttermilk. This is country red. The trees are avocado. I did celery green as the highlighting. And how's our dark green? So we're at 5 colors. So let's go across these real gentle. Just to turn them down a little bit. That's what I'm talking about. I might have busted that. But it'll be fine. All right. And just figure out where you want to sand these at. You know, kind of avoid the areas that are a little bit more delicate. And what I'm gonna do to help not have a whole lot of stress on these delicate letters, I'm gonna hold it down as I do some sanding. With the hopes that I don't bust it. But anything's possible. And I'm trying to be real gentle. This kind of has to be a personal preference, how much you take off, if you take any off at all. Okay. So I'm gonna kind of just do what I did yesterday and kind of just dab at this stuff. So I'm just gonna put a little bit on my sponge, tap it off. And I'm just gonna kind of like tap it on. And just to give it a, basically a dirty look. And if you feel you got too much on in one area, you can take your finger and kind of wipe it around. I don't think you'd want to take a wet wipe and try and wipe these off. Because then I think you're asking to possibly break the letters. You could maybe take a Q-tip. And then I'm kind of just pouncing just to get some color on there. Some of this wax. And that's it. And I'm happy with it. So let's kind of just put it all together here and see what everything looks like. I don't know if I want to do any splatter, and I think it's really going to take away from this old look. Part of me kind of wants to really go over those trees, but I don't know. So that's something I'm going to have to ponder on, I think. And that did break, but I don't think it's going to be that bad because, one, I can glue it on there and you'll never know. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And I don't think I'm going to do any type of splattering whatsoever. I don't think I'm going to put any type of antiquing on this at all. What I'm going to do is just glue it, and it's good. And I absolutely love it. It's very rustic, it's very antique, it's very primitive. It's a farmhouse style design. And if you're into that, I think this will be the perfect design for you. And it really didn't take all that long to paint. An hour and a half. So, these designs that I'm working on are going to be something I think that will be really great sellers at craft shows. They're quick, easy paints. It depends on how much time you want to put into it. So I think they're quick, easy paints. And if you just did this in an assembly line, the backboards is what takes the longest. But if you just paint a bunch up, let them dry, move on to something else, then come back and just start sanding them, and then, putting that wax on and antiquing it, it's going to go really, really quick. So I do have a couple Halloween designs, and it's still early. I might come back and do them. You never know. So if I do, I hope you join me. If not, I definitely will be on sometime tomorrow working on the Halloween ones if I don't get them done today. So until then, take care. Bye-bye.